back to another edition of The Night Shift. Very excited about this episode. Very excited about this guest. This is a guy who is so familiar to the Central Pennsylvania music community, a voice that you all know, and gosh, I don't use the term legend all that often, but in reference to my friend Glenn Hamilton, yeah, legend is appropriate.
Dude.
Thank you, my brother, and thank you for spending some time with me here on The Night Shift.
Thank you for, hey, I think it's so cool you're doing this, man. This whole crew. Very cool, but I'm really honored to be here, man. Thanks for inviting me.
Can't wait to, I've been looking forward to this and have this conversation. Your name has come up in other podcasts.
Of The Night Shift.
Yeah. Just in talking about you. But, one thing that I don't, and just being completely honest here for myself, I got to know you obviously through what you do, as a DJ on the river. And I didn't realize at the time, you were a musician first and foremost. And the whole being on the radio and being a voice and somebody that we all know kind of came second. And I mean, literally just moments ago, you picked up that Mark guitar and started playing some Led Zeppelin. So yeah, so talk about, for you, when did you realize or know that music's going to be a really big part of my life?
Well, when I was young, really young, I was into sports and stuff like that, baseball and basketball through like middle school, and then I'd say in elementary school I started doing theater. I got into theater, acting. My mom got me some acting lessons, a little workshop in a little town we were living in at the time in Texas, and so I was in some plays, and I really fell in love with the stage and acting. I grew up when I was little, like from the time I was like 3 years old, I could talk. I would listen to comedy albums and learn them verbatim, like Flip Wilson and Bill Cosby and those kind of,
Yeah.
And I would learn these routines, and my parents would have parties and have a few friends over, and then call their 3-year-old kid out to do these Flip Wilson routines,
Yeah.
So all of a sudden I knew, okay, if I do this, I can get a reaction out of people.
Yeah.
And I think they like me. So anyway, then I got into high school, started playing the guitar. I wanted to be a rock star. It's just like you probably wanted to be a rock star at some point, right?
And here we are.
Yeah, and so then I realized, that's probably not going to happen. So I figured if I can't, play music for a living, I could play other people's music.
Yeah.
For a living. And so I fell into radio when I was 14. And I had my first job in a little town in Texas called Kerrville, Texas. And I won a Frisbee on a call-in trivia contest on a little AM station there. And I thought that was so cool. I was caller whatever, and I got the question right. And I went in to pick up my prize, and they gave me a tour of the radio station. And I was like, this is so cool, man. And so the program director at the time was looking for a Saturday night DJ, and he knew I was into acting and stuff like that. He's like, you want to be on the radio? I was like, heck yeah.
Yeah.
So they gave me Saturday nights, 6 to midnight, spinning records.
Yeah.
And some cartridges, some cards.
Yeah, right.
But it was 45s and 33s, and it was like, it's the station format at that time, if it was on today, would be called yacht rock. So we were playing all of that stuff, a lot of Steely Dan and Ambrosia, the hits of like 1981 and stuff like that. So that's when I got into radio, and then I kept playing music, but that kind of ended up taking a back burner. I really thought I was going to be an actor when I was in high school, and then they offered me a full-time job at the radio station at the end of my senior year. So I was like, I was about to go to college. I barely graduated from high school. I had to go to summer school my senior year. They let me walk. I got to walk with my class to graduate, but there was no diploma in there. So I had to go to summer school for 6 weeks. Mm-hmm. Finished that and started working at the radio station immediately, full time, middays on the FM country station. And I kind of never looked back, man. It just I fell in love with radio, and you know how that can be because you started in radio.
Yes.
Moved and then got into traffic with Trafax,
right,
and you made the jump to light speed, as I call it. You made it the transition, that rare transition from radio to television.
Yeah. Well, I had a lot of luck along the way, but yeah.
Don't we all? But no, you
did.
You've done. How long have you been doing TV now?
Since 1997.
Yeah. See.
Yeah. So yeah.
It's a big deal, man.
Yeah. Well, thank you. You know, you and I have obviously just had, you know, mutual respect for each other and mutual respect for the craft and broadcasting. And, you know, for you, playing music and being involved in being a DJ and doing what you do, you know, you said that, you know, music at some point in time kind of got put on the back burner, but I know you well enough to know that playing music and being a musician is still something that is a fire that burns deep inside of you.
Without a doubt. Just, you know, I know everything that it takes to be a full-time musician. You know what I mean? And so I would take every opportunity I had to play with anybody that would play with me. You know, so I would do solo acoustic gigs. My friend Ray Solinsky and I ended up having a duo for a while. I played with a couple of guys, Greg Platzer and Steve Clay, who were in Grumpy Old Men at the time, and we did an acoustic trio called Almost Grumpy, and we had that going on for years, and I played with the full band Grumpy for a while. And then in 2000 I did, in 1999 is when we recorded it. I wrote about 8 or 9 songs, and I wanted to, you know, just go in and record it. I'd always wanted to make an album. And it was starting in the late 90s to become easier and easier to do that with the technology.
Yes.
You didn't have to spend $20,000 to go into a studio. I think I spent like $6 total. Yeah. But what I really wanted to do was get a bunch of my fellow musician friends from the area to play on it and see what they could contribute. So I had this all-star lineup of people that at the time, especially, and some of them are still huge today, to play on my album. And that's the thing that I'm most proud of it.
Yeah.
My debut album from 25 years ago now.
Yeah,
I can't believe it. Came out in 2000.
Yeah.
And the follow-up is coming soon. I'm working on it.
So when I saw you last year at West Shore Theater, you had a great line. You were like, well, I want to do a song now from my latest album that came out in 2000.
I forgot I said that.
This is my latest song from my latest album.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah, 23 years old now.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, so talk a little bit, though. You understand, you know, what it's like to be a musician. You understand what it takes to be a musician. And, you know, through radio and through the river, you've been able to be a part of this community. So, you know, talk about your involvement with local musicians, hosting shows, hosting bands. I know it's an absolute labor of love for you.
It is, and I'll just say this. I know enough about playing music and being in a band, just barely enough, to truly appreciate what it really takes to be able to do that for a living. I dabble in that.
Yeah.
The people that do it full time, especially local musicians that make a good living doing it, or at least a really great side living doing it. It takes a lot of work, a lot of talent, and it just gives me the deepest respect for that, especially the ones that have hung in there for decades, still doing it, and finding out how to keep it fresh and really connect with the audience. But no, the river, you know, there have been other stations that have had local shows for sure and shined the spotlight on local music. Michael Anthony Smith,
mutual friend of ours,
absolutely, legend. Talk about Michael Anthony Smith hosted open mic night, MIKE, pun intended, open mic night, for 20 years on the river.
Who's a musician in himself.
Phenomenal guitar player, drummer, singer. He's got several albums himself. So, you know, after a few years of not having a local show on the river, Brandon Valentine from the Central Pennsylvania Music Hall of Fame, he started that whole thing up, and that really took off in a short period of time, like a year, and it was all of a sudden. I think a lot of people looked at the Central Pennsylvania Music Hall of Fame and the awards with some skepticism at first, because anybody that comes in...
You're looking at one of them,
I know.
We had this conversation.
I was a little bit of one too before I met Brandon.
Right. Yeah.
And went to the first one. But it didn't take long to see that this was as legit of a thing. I mean, what that has done in the last 5-6 years to bring the music community together, to make it feel very cohesive, like a family, like other people cheering each other on, hoping they'll do better. It feels more like a community, the music scene here, than it has in probably 20 or 30 years.
Yeah, well, I would say, you know, I mean, point of fact, you and I had a conversation real early on with all of that, where I was kind of going, you know, I think that the quote that comes to mind when it comes to all that is, we mock what we don't understand.
That's true.
And, you know, and but I remember you said to me, you're like, no, this is,
it's legit.
Yeah,
when you go to see Whitaker Center sold out, and these people, you know, they're really just cheering on these musicians, giving them exposure, and then they moved to Hershey Theater, sold it out like 3 years in a row. Now they got the construction going on there, so it's going to be, the awards are going to be at A&T on March 5th.
Yeah. Coming up March 5th, and the tickets are still available.
That's right.
Yeah.
It's selling fast.
Well, yeah, so talk about your involvement with the Central Pennsylvania Music Hall of Fame, and I know you're a board member.
Yeah, I'm on the advisory board. Yeah, I'm an advisory board member. But I just thought, I asked Brandon, I guess it's been 3 years ago now, like 3 years ago, probably right now, I was like, hey man, would you be willing to partner with us and do a local music show? He curates the music. I give him we give him the microphone, and we do co-host the local show together. A very creative name we came up with for that show.
That was a really long meeting.
It was a long meeting.
Tossed around a lot of names.
You know, there's all the homegrown show, and there's you know, all that stuff. It's like, let's just make it as simple as possible, so when people hear the title, they know what we're doing. Local show. And he was totally on board with it. And it's great because each, you know, on the River Open Mic Night, we don't just, what did I just called Michael Anthony Smith's show.
Yeah, right, yeah.
You can have, on the local show. Yes. Thank you, Steve.
Yes.
What I love about it is we don't just feature rock, you know. We don't just feel like we have to stay in that rock lane. From 8 to 9 on Sunday nights, you will literally hear anything. From Celtic folk music to bluegrass to rap, hip hop, and metal, like death metal.
Yeah.
Our criteria is, if it's good, we'll play it.
Yeah.
So it's really exciting to get to literally not just support local artists, but all these different genres.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, and you know, good on you and good on Brandon. I mean, you know, I'm wired the same way. You still have that. You still have that passion. You still have that if something sounds good to you, like you want to share it.
Yeah, for sure. And
you know,
and in this digital age of Spotify and iHeartRadio and in all the streaming services, there's still something really magical about hearing your song on the radio.
Absolutely.
On the radio. And there are some artists that are kind of, you think they might be a little jaded or not care. We get some of the biggest reactions sometimes. What I love is when I see the artists will, they know it's coming up because we promote that they're going to be on, and they'll listen for it. They'll like take a video of their song coming on the air, and everybody in the room is like freaking out with them because there is something about hearing your song on the radio.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, so this is something that I know you feel the same way that I feel, and I've tried to explain this to people, where I talk about radio and I talk about, you know, why I still enjoy, and thank you for having me guest on the River occasionally.
Oh, dude, I love having you on.
Thank you.
Yeah.
But you grew up listening to music, posters on your walls, you know, and you know, music was just such a huge part of your life.
100%.
You were just such a fan.
Yeah.
You know, of everything. You know, and going to the record store when you were 10 years old was just, yeah. You know, I mean, so to actually get on the radio, still to this day, and I know you feel the same. If I get an opportunity to play a song like Limelight from Rush on the radio and say, here, like, it still matters to me because I'm sharing it with an audience, and it's still magic to, as you say, hear a song on the radio. It really still matters.
And to know that there are real people on the other side.
Yes.
I mean, because that's what radio is, companionship.
Yeah.
You know, that's the difference between like Spotify and the streaming services. Those are great, you know, music collections.
Right.
All right. Which now you can get any song, anywhere, anytime you want. So what does radio offer? Companionship.
Yeah.
That friendship, that person on the other side, a friendly voice, if you will.
Yeah.
That's on the other side that you know is connecting with you through the music somehow.
Right.
And through shared experiences in your community.
Yeah.
I always like to say radio is the original social media.
Yeah.
That's a coin Bob Pittman's. Stole that line from him.
Yeah. No,
it's true.
You know as well as I do too. Like when you get out, you know, in the community, and you know, television, unfortunately, you know, streaming, audience, you know, it's. But man, and you know it, and I know it. When you get out there and you're in the community, whether it's hosting a show or doing an event or whatever. You know, people come up to you, and, you know, even in 2025, like we just did a whole week of live newscasts at the farm show. Even in 2025, it matters. Like, it's what we do still matters.
Yeah, man. People, if you wonder if people are listening or watching, all you have to do is go out and connect with some people. Now, I will say this. One thing I do love about radio is I have a certain amount of anonymity, because when I go out with like you or Tom or somebody, you guys get stopped like every 2 seconds, and I'm just like, well, I can go to the grocery store on Saturday in my sweats. Nobody knows who the hell I am.
So. It's I always call that first world problems. You know, people say to me like, do you ever get tired? And like,
no, you don't.
First world problem.
Absolutely, man. I'm sure you don't. It's
cool.
Cool.
Nobody put a gun to my head and said, you have to go and be a weatherman on television,
and
predict snowfall amounts.
Right.
I went into this eyes wide open.
Such a lose-lose situation. You guys predicted this storm perfectly, but I think we got like 1 inch more than you might have said at the top end in some places. And
I know.
I don't envy that part of your job, man.
Thank you.
God bless you guys. You do a great job.
Thank you. Well, and you know, and obviously, you know, with Channel 21, we've had a partnership with the River, and you know, and that part of it, like we were saying, it's still that ability to, yes, everybody can grab their phone and get a forecast. Everybody can, you know, and you know, you know, having that conversation with an audience still matters. You know what I mean? You know, and you know, I think you and I both have a, you know, I think Bruce Springsteen said it best, like, you know, all my career has been a conversation with my audience. You know,
simple
and and you know, that's kind of what we've been doing, you know, for you know, all of these years. So I do want to backtrack a little bit with you, and because I think people will be interested to hear, you know, so how'd you wind up on the River? And correct me if I'm wrong, you've been there since day one.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. This March will be 33 years.
Yes.
In a row.
And you would be,
weekends included.
You would be, you know, you and I are both, we're survivors. You know, and you're the last man standing.
You know,
from when that radio station signed on.
And it's so, you know, it's so sad. I mean, it's the state of a lot of industries. Right now, and you know, this is unfiltered. I don't care. I'm not going to say anything that that people don't already know.
Right.
But it's like, just like so many massive corporations, they're trying to figure out how few human beings do they really need to still generate the revenue and ratings that they are having. And they're testing the limits right now, and I'm grateful every day that I still get to be one of the guys that gets to do this, every day, because I've worked with every single human being that has ever come through the doors at the River, at iHeart. Started out as Dane Media and then Clear Channel.
Sure.
And it's still Clear Channel. They just changed the name to iHeart, which was genius, by the way.
Yeah.
But it's bittersweet because every single person that's ever been through that door has contributed to the success of what the River is today. And it's just a shame that the industry has gone the way it has, not just in our building, but every radio station. I know TV's starting to feel some of that squeeze too. And just like I said, so many industries are. How few humans can we get away with? But yet they still want enough humans, because you'll even see that our people that are at the top will say our lifeblood are our people in our local communities that are connecting with our audiences. So until they decide they don't want to do that, they need a guy like me. They need a guy like you to be that,
the face
that connecting point.
Yeah.
That's right.
Right.
And when that becomes not important, I'll be off the radio.
Yeah.
But as long as it's important and I get to do it, I will not take it for granted for 1 minute.
Yeah, and I feel the same way. Like sometimes I still say to myself, when the days are long and the days are tough, or I do a 14-hour shift because of the snowstorm, whatever. I always say to myself, and I know you do the same thing. Hey, have that conversation with the 16-year-old kid that you were.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And oh my God, if I could have tapped myself on the shoulder when I was 16 and said, this is what you're going to do, and this is what, I would have been over the moon, and so, always try to see it in that light. Talk a little bit about, so many people here locally, myself included, the River, and it's a pretty, it's obviously it's a great success story as a station, and that it continues so strong, and you are, for all intents and purposes, the face of that brand that is the River, and that's pretty cool.
It's
it
cool.
really is.
There's a lot of responsibility too, man. I don't want to F it up. That's all I've been doing for the past several years. I just want to F it up. So we have a really solid base of listeners that have been with us from the beginning. We have a ton of people that find the River every day.
Yeah.
One thing the most brilliant thing that our company did, 15 years ago now, I think, somewhere around there, is when they created the iHeartRadio app. Everybody thought, oh God, that's so dumb. It's like, we're getting people, telling people not to listen to the radio. It's like, well, we were the first.
That's where it's going.
It's the best, and I'm not saying that because I work there, but it really is the best way to consume not just radio, but podcast. It's the #1 platform that people listen to podcasting.
Yeah.
And music too, but like I said, that's not even a big deal. You can get your music literally anywhere now.
Right.
You can speak it into the air and a song will play.
Yeah. Yeah.
Again, it's about that connection.
Yeah.
And through the app, they were smart to know that we need to put this where people are going to be.
Yeah.
And that was incredible. And our streaming numbers are amazing. And it's amazing where how all over the world people listen to the River. It's crazy.
Yeah. No, I know. And sometimes it's like even kind of hard for me to like wrap my mind around the idea of, same thing, for us on the TV side, because obviously we all of our news and our broadcasts go out, and then I will literally hear from somebody in Texas who goes, I still watch you guys because I grew up. They
want to stay connected to
yeah.
But also, that speaks to what we were just talking about.
Yeah.
People can get their news anywhere now.
Correct.
People can get their weather anywhere now,
Yeah.
but they trust you. They like you. They
Right.
like the rest of the team over there, or whatever they choose to watch. Yeah. There's still that human connection.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, it's funny, and I think I've told you the story, but I have to tell it in this forum so everybody can hear. My son, Cameron, he's 16. I teach him how to drive. He gets his driver's license. My wife and I buy him a car, and about third or fourth time I rode with him in the car, he's got the river on. And I had done my best as a dad to raise him with an appreciation of all things rock.
Oh, you did.
Yeah, but but I also was like, you don't have to listen to this because I like it.
Sure.
You dig what you dig and whatever. And so about the third, fourth time we're in the car, and I said to him, I was like, so, you like the river? And he's like, oh yeah, it's a great station. And I was like, oh, that's cool. I was like, I was like, you ever hear me doing the weather on there? And he's like, yeah, I hear you once in a while. And I'm like, it's and I was like, it's a great station, has been for a long time. And my son looks at me and he goes, do you know Glenn Hamilton? And I go, yeah. And he's like, get out. Get out of here. I'm like, yeah. I do the weather on what I mean?
That's hilarious.
Yeah, I've known Glenn for years. I was, I don't like, in his brain, I'm like total small potatoes. The idiot who talks about the weather on TV, whatever.
Yeah.
And I looked at him and I was like, if you want, I can call him right now. we can actually, we could have a. And he was like, oh my gosh, oh wow, that is so, to this day, I think he was more impressed by anything I've ever done in my career was the fact that I could call you and I had you on speed dial. So
God bless you, Ken.
Yeah, but that also speaks to the river, and it speaks to you, and it speaks to what you've done here for all these years. You have been a constant voice in people's lives and through the river, and a presence, and a lot of people are here today, gone tomorrow.
They are, and I will say though that there's something about this Central PA radio market, Harrisburg specifically.
Yeah.
I mean, yes, do we have we have competition? I think it's actually mortal combat in the radio wars.
Yeah.
As far as ratings, and we want to do best and stuff like that. But I mean, I've always gotten along with everybody at every radio station in this town, because especially now there's so few of us that get to do it.
Right.
So it's a very small group of people, but I mean, I have the utmost respect for every single person in this market that is still doing their thing, and there are tons of people that have been here as long as me, you know, and that's rare for a market.
It is,
especially a market this size, and especially in this day and age, now more than ever. I mean, radio has always been volatile as far as, firing people. I mean, WKRP, town to town, up and down the dial.
Yeah.
That's always been the old joke. But now, and before it could be just like, you get fired because you didn't have good ratings, or you didn't get along with the GM or whatever. Now you just get downsized. Yeah. So anyway, the fact that there are the number of people that are in Central PA that still get to be on the radio, that have been there for a long time, I think speaks a lot to the audience in this area too, that they've connected, they like to stay connected, and
that's and I don't think that's something that maybe a lot of people realize. Radio and TV, same way, in that we're competitive, and it's a competition, and I every day that I go on the air, I'm trying to be more accurate and be better than the guy literally across the street. However, same thing with radio, to what you're saying is, people might think that it's but there is a mutual respect.
Oh, big time.
Yeah, like, do I want to be the best? Of course. Do you want to be the best? Do you want the river to be the best? Having said that, there's honor and respect amongst all of us within the community of, hey, you've been doing this a long time. You're doing the best you can. There's a lot of respect for other people that have been in the market and have a heritage and have done it for a long time, and we all get along. When I see other broadcasters from Channel 8, Channel 27, hey, how you been? How's it going? Oh, I saw on Facebook that your son turned 16. And then we go back and try to beat each other's brains out.
It's friendly, as they say, friendly competition.
Yes, yeah.
But it's competition.
Yeah, it is, and that continues to this day. But yeah,
it's we're just people, we're just dudes.
Yeah,
and I don't want to say chicks.
Yeah.
But we're just people. That's all. We're just people. Just like anybody else. We just have a microphone in front of our face or a camera on us at all times.
Yeah.
That's the only difference.
Yeah.
In fact, I always like to say if people weren't listening, I could probably be committed, because what I do for a living is sit in a room alone most of the time talking to the wall.
Yeah.
And if you just looked at that from the outside,
yeah.
if you didn't know there were other people listening out of it, you think, what's this guy doing? He's just sitting in a room talking to himself.
Yeah.
So I'm thankful that there are people on the other end that get to hear what babbling comes out of my mouth.
Yeah. No, I know. And it's a really special thing to have. It's a special connection to have. And it's special to, and I hope everybody that is watching this, speaking for you and I, it's a miracle that we have an audience, and we're really freaking grateful for it.
Every day.
Just absolutely grateful for it. So, you mentioned earlier, started out with, I was going to be an actor, but I wound up here.
Dirty laundry.
I don't have to look good. I just have to be clear.
That's right. Especially on the radio.
Yeah. So, but you're putting your toe back in the water with getting on the stage again. Talk about that.
I am. So we've done shows at West Shore Theater, and I've I got to know Dustin LeBlanc over there a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
And I told him, and I've also Caitlin Gracie was. So let me back up just a hair. So yes, I wanted to be. That's what I was, a theater kid, and that's what I really wanted to do up through my senior year of high school. And even after that, I thought, well, I'll eventually get to do some stuff or community theater. And I never did. And then Emily, our daughter, who's incredibly talented, if I do say so, and I'm not just biased. Other people say that as well. But she got into theater on her own with no prodding from me or Nancy.
Right.
She started auditioning for musicals in junior high, and fell in love with it and realized she could sing a bit. And then we started getting her some vocal lessons, and she really got good. And she really found her true passion, which was theater. And I was just like, I can't believe this, because I didn't have to push her into it. Probably if I would have, it may not have turned out the way it has, because she's now a sophomore in college, and that's her major. She's a theater major, BFA in theater arts with a concentration in musical theater. So if you want to say, I guess I'm following in her footsteps now, because she really ignited, going to all of her shows and taking her to rehearsals and getting to know some folks in the theater community, really ignited the passion for me in theater. But I just figured, I was going up against that voice in my head that was like, no, dude, you've been away from it for too long.
Yeah.
You can't do this anymore.
Right.
What have you got to bring to this community of these people that have been pouring their blood, sweat, and tears into this art form for years, and I'm just going to walk in.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what happened.
Yeah, right.
But to be honest, I went to Dustin at West Shore Theater a year and a half ago, and I was just like, hey, man, because he's the executive director of Keystone Theatrics at Allenbury. Well, we're known and respected in the theater community. And I was like, hey, man.
Super nice guy.
Super nice guy. And I was like, and what they've done at West Shore Theater is incredible.
Amazing, yeah.
And I just went to him and I was just like, hey, man, what is a guy like me that wants to get back, and I was a theater kid, what do I do to get back in the theater? I'd love to have some coffee with you sometime and talk about it. And he said, yeah, I'd love to. He's busy, I'm busy. We never did have that coffee, but we've stayed in touch. And about 2.5 weeks ago, I got a call from him. And he said, hey man, give me a buzz. I really want to connect with you about this opportunity to see if you'd be interested in it. So we played phone tag for a couple of days. I finally got a hold of him Saturday, 1.5 weeks or 2 ago. And he said, yeah, we're doing a show, $1 Million Quartet at Allenbury. And it sounded familiar to me. And then all he had to say was Elvis Presley, John. And I was like, oh, right. So it's the story of when Elvis, Johnny Cash, Carl Perkins, and Jerry Lee Lewis got together at Sun Records.
Yeah.
For one day. They just all happened to come together for this one historic jam session. And it was on Broadway. They did a big national tour of it for years afterwards, too. And I'm like, that sounds great. He's like, it's a non-singing role. And I was like, thank God, because I'm not ready for that yet. I would love to get back into musical theater. Acting is my favorite thing to do anyway. So he said, this would be the role of Sam Phillips, who is he's known as the father of rock and roll, and he started Sun Records, discovered all these guys. He's like, would you be interested in that? He's like, I'll send you a script, you can look at it. So he let me know early next week. Well, I talked to Nancy about it, and Emily, and I get the script and I'm reading it, I'm holding a digital script, and I'm like, oh my God, this role is incredible. And so I emailed him back immediately, but actually I called him. I'm like, dude, I'm not waiting. And it's like, I'm completely down. If you'll have me, I said, I'm a bit terrified because there's a lot of dialogue for this role. Like, a lot. And that was my biggest fear, was am I going to be able to remember lines? And then it's this role, which is like, I can't even tell you how much. I need you to pray for me, dude, because I'm terrified of this. And it's a short runway for rehearsals. It's like 3 weeks of rehearsals.
Right.
And we do 7 shows. But we had our first rehearsal last night, as a matter of fact. I read through everybody involved in this show. So cool and so welcoming. And 4 of the people in the show have done it hundreds of times. They've been on national tours of it.
Wow.
Yeah, and so it's legit. It's going to be a great show. So
no pressure.
I know. Pressure.
I know.
So
I know you well enough to know that you're you're going to knock it out of the park, but B, you're nervous.
I am, and I want to do good.
Yeah,
I don't want to let anybody down. But I'm hoping that this is an opportunity for me to get back into the thing that, at whatever level, that I just really love interpreting other people. Just like I like playing music, I like taking other people's words and interpreting them.
Yeah.
You know?
So when can we come see you? Dates? And where can we get tickets?
So February 7th through the 15th, I think it is. It's over 2 weekends, 7 shows. KeystoneTheatrics.com is where you buy your tickets.
Yeah. So my wife and I are coming to see you on Super Bowl Sunday.
What? Okay, before the game.
Before the game.
It's an afternoon matinee.
No, I was perfect. I looked, and I was like looking at the shows, and I was looking at my calendar, and I was like, 2 o'clock on Super Bowl Sunday is perfect because the game doesn't start till like 6:30 or whatever.
That's right.
It starts at 6:30, but there'll be 1,000 commercials and the national anthem, and the ball won't probably be in the air till 7 p.m.
That's right.
But at any rate, So
well, thanks for buying tickets.
I
should know my lines by then. I hope. Third show?
I mean, come on.
Is that the first weekend?
Yes.
So that Sunday, that'll be our 3rd or 4th performance.
Yeah.
I should have my lines down.
Yeah. Well, I'm spending my hard-earned money to come see you, so you had better be.
No pressure.
5 stars, my friend.
I probably could have gotten you free tickets. I don't know what the deal is with that.
That's okay.
But anyway,
I love to support local.
I'll give you your money back. How about that? I'll refund your money. If
you stink, I'm gonna come to you and be like, hey.
I'm very excited.
It's really exciting. And recently we had Julie and Eric on from the Solar Federation, and your name came up. And so, what is it going to take? Who's going to be the person? What kind of arm twisting do we need to do to get you to go out and play more?
Oh man.
You know,
They're so kind.
I know you're busy, and I know, but
They're so
you know,
kind.
you're a great singer. You're a great guitar player. You have a lot to say, and you know, I get it. However, will you please go out and play more?
Thanks, man, and thanks, Julie.
Yeah,
I appreciate you guys, you and Eric. I mean,
yeah.
I love playing music, and I have a few opportunities coming up this year to get involved with some projects. I'm just kind of keeping myself open to see where the cards fall. And I got to, my good friend Brian Seneca recorded an album last year.
Which we're going to have Brian on this
You should.
show. Yeah,
Oh
yeah.
my God.
I've already
He's
talked to Brian.
hilarious.
Oh yeah. Brian and I are also cut from the same cloth, as are you.
Oh yeah. Dude,
Yeah,
Brian's
we
one of
very
my good buddies.
similar
and
background,
He
yeah.
is a prolific songwriter.
Yeah.
He wrote a full album plus of songs last year.
Yeah.
I got to play on just a little
Yeah.
acoustic parts on a couple
Yeah.
songs. He's already got like 5 songs written for
Yeah.
the next album, and I was helping him out.
Well,
with
and his
one
record
track.
is nominated for an award for the Central Pennsylvania Music Hall of Fame
For Album of the Year.
Yeah.
For I'm Still Here.
And all
I'm Still
respect.
Around.
Yeah, all respect to everybody who's nominated, but it's a phenomenal record.
It is, and it kind of like the one I did 25 years ago. He's got a whole bunch of people, a bunch of his friends that played on it to contribute to it, and but nothing would matter if he didn't have the songs.
Right.
So he's got the songs. So I get to play a little bit on that. Working on a little something special. I don't think I can talk about what it is yet with Eric Wersing, Mike Waskovich, and Fedge Herb. We're putting a little thing together. I'll tell you about it off camera.
Okay.
And it's only for a one-off thing.
Yeah.
But who knows?
Yeah.
If it works, maybe we'll do it one other time sometime.
Yeah.
So maybe West Shore Theater or something like that. Dustin,
Yeah.
if you're watching. Anyway, so there's that going on, and so I've got a few opportunities to play some music, but. For the next 3 weeks, I'm going to be immersed in the $1 Million Quartet, trying to learn my lines and not screw that show up. But I do love playing. There's even talk, my buddy Ray Solinsky, who lives in Ohio.
Sure.
He might come back this summer. We might do a reunion show at some point. Who knows, man?
Yeah.
I love to play, and I love to play with anybody that'll have me.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of will it fit in the schedule?
Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks, man. You're too kind.
Oh, well, one other thing I want to touch on before I hit you with the final four is, and this is something that you are very vocal and very public about, but talk about being in recovery.
Yeah, man. It's I love talking about recovery.
Yeah.
I'm a guy who drank a lot,
Yeah.
but that doesn't make me an alcoholic. I did a lot of cocaine, smoked a lot of weed. None of that makes me a drug addict or alcoholic. The problem is when I would drink, I couldn't tell you how much I was going to have every time. And same with the white lady.
Yeah, right. I see.
Yeah. So anyway, I wound up in 2001 hitting kind of a bottom. Not kind of a bottom. It was definitely. I knew that I couldn't keep going the way I was going. I couldn't imagine my life not drinking and doing drugs.
Yeah.
But then I knew that I couldn't keep going the way I was going. So I was at this place where I was like, I don't know what to do. So I reached out for help, and my dad was a person in recovery, but I didn't know what any of that meant. So I called him up. It wasn't even like the worst day of my drinking. A lot of people think your bottom is out there somewhere, that you lose your house, or you lose your job, or you lose your marriage. And so a lot of that can happen as the result of that, but the real bottom happens inside. So I had hit this internal bottom, or just this depression and anxiety, and just I just didn't want to live like that anymore. So I reached out for help. I went to a treatment center out in Texas, and I didn't know anything about recovery. I thought I was going to go there and learn how to drink right,
Yeah.
and turns out I'm one of the 12 to 15% of the population who's wired alcoholic. And they didn't tell me I was. They gave me the symptoms, for me to check it myself. If when I honestly want to, I find I can't quit entirely, or if when drinking I have little control over the amount I take. I was like, well, the first one, I never wanted to quit entirely, so that didn't count. But then they asked me, then it was, and it wasn't and, it was, or if when drinking I have little control over the amount I take, I might have a problem. So I had to look at that. Anyway, so I got into recovery. I dove headfirst in, and my original and so far only sobriety and clean date is May 10th, 2001. I'm thankful every day. The thing that gives me the most joy is trying to help other people that might find that they are suffering as well, and show them that there's a way out, and the way I do it ain't the only way to do it, but it's worked for me.
Yeah.
And I'm happy to show anybody how to live a full, rich life, doing all the stuff that I thought I would never do without drinking.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's just been my experience.
Yeah.
So
Well,
I just encourage anybody that thinks that they might have a problem to at least check it out.
Yeah.
And know that it's not the end of your life.
Yeah.
If you find out you do.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that you and I had talked about, and obviously, my family, myself, very grateful to you. My son's in recovery. You've been supportive of him.
He's
Thank you.
Great guy.
But when my son first, started getting into recovery, and I talked to you, and one of the things I found very remarkable was, like you said to me, and you and I have a very similar background, both similar age, DJ, and I remember you said to me, you're like, I thought, am I going to be able to play music? How am I going to be able to go out and, like, because my life,
concert even.
But my life is, and that's the way my life was too, was part of my job, a big part of my job was going to bars.
Yeah.
And being around people that were going to be drinking.
Yeah.
And I just think it's remarkable that you were able to navigate all of that.
I'll tell you.
Yeah.
I mean, you have to hear this. I'm not anti-drinking. I'm not even anti-certain drugs. I think weed is great if it doesn't affect your life in a negative way. I'm all for drinking responsibly. I just can't do it.
Yeah.
But thanks to the recovery program that I'm in, the fellowship that I'm in, I literally can take it or leave it.
Yeah.
It's a miracle, but it's happened to me. They call it, I got placed in this position of neutrality where I can take it or leave it. I can go anywhere and go do anything I want to do and be around it. And I don't take it for granted. I'm not cocky. I'm not afraid of it. I'm not like, oh, I mean, you guys got set him up, Joe over there.
Right.
Jeff, sorry.
Yeah.
You set him up. You got to think.
Yeah.
I didn't walk it in, and I like to make sure that people are comfortable that I don't drink. I don't want people to be like, oh, we got to hide this beer. Glenn's coming. It's like, screw that.
Yeah.
Do you?
Yeah.
I'll do me. You do you, and we'll rock on, man.
Yeah.
It's a cool way to live. I do know that there are people that are struggling with sobriety and addiction, and they haven't had that experience of freedom that comes from taking some actions.
Yeah.
And I don't wish that type of dryness on anybody.
Yeah.
That would be a horrible way, I think, to live for me. I'm thankful every day that I found this way of life. I found that I don't have to have it in drinking or drugging in my life to have a good time.
Yeah.
To celebrate the good times or wallow in the bad times. But that again, that's for me.
Yeah.
If anybody else is looking for that, there's help out there. Yeah, it's cool.
All right, man. Oh, thank you.
You can get off my soapbox. If I was on one. Sorry.
Well,
it's my second favorite thing to talk about. Recovery is.
Yeah.
I can't tell you what my favorite thing.
Yeah. Yeah. You and I have had these conversations privately, obviously, and I appreciate.
Is this being recorded?
Apparently, I think so.
I'm just kidding.
I appreciate how open you are.
Oh yeah, man.
You're an absolute open book. And
nothing to hide.
Yeah. So, all right. So, I call it the Final Four.
Uh-oh.
I was like, I think I'm going to end these podcasts with 4, questions that I'm going to ask every person that comes on. And massive board meeting, we probably, there must have been 50 people in the room, and we came up with calling it the Final Four. How about that?
Don't get sued. Oh my God.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, okay.
All right. So I'm glad I get to be on this before you. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's the last 4 questions, and the first one is your favorite band or artist of all time.
Beatles.
Okay.
But that said, 2 through 5 are pretty solid, but can also change positions from time to time. But for me, it starts with the Beatles.
Yeah. What's the one song that you wish you would have written?
Oh, wow.
That's a tough one.
Golly. One song that I wish I had written. I'm just gonna say it. For just personally for me, These Days by Jackson Browne. I love that song. It's not even kind of like my favorite song. I love to play it. I love the words. He was only like 16 or 17 when he wrote it. He was so prolific. Anyway, that's my answer right now.
Yeah.
These Days, Jackson Browne.
Yeah, it's funny. When we had our mutual friend, Mike Bitz on, and I asked him that question, he pondered for a minute, and then he went, I'm going to be driving home.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm going to go, I wish I would have said it.
For sure.
Yeah, it's going to hit me.
But I'll stand by that. I'll stand by Jackson Browne any day.
Yeah. Talk about a songwriter. Just a great songwriter. Does not have to be music, or it can be. If you could have lunch with one person, who would it be?
If I could have lunch with one person, living or deceased?
living or dead. Yeah.
Okay. Probably Neil Peart.
Wow.
If he would.
Yeah.
He might not mind the one-on-one, just having lunch if I don't fanboy out on him.
Right.
But if I would have had the chance
Yeah.
to do that, can you imagine how cool that conversation would be?
I couldn't even. Yeah, he's. You and I are both massive Rush fans. He's one of the. There's no other way I can put this to say that he is one of the most influential people in my life.
Me too.
Yeah.
Again, like Bitz said, I'll probably drive home and think of 4 other people that I would like to have lunch with. But that was the first one that came to the top of my head.
No, that would be. Well, I'll ask you those, even though I know the answer.
Steve Knight is my favorite TV personality. Oh, what were you gonna ask?
Beatles, Stones, or Steve Knight?
Beatles.
Yeah.
Sorry, dude. Yeah.
And it's. I've asked that question of so many people, and I whether people say the Stones or the Beatles, they almost all didn't go. Not that I don't like the Rolling Stones. Yeah, vast respect.
Love the Stones.
Vast respect for the Beatles.
Yeah.
You know what I mean. But
I think the Rolling Stones would even say the Beatles. They were so influenced by them and got helped by them so much. I think they would even agree.
Well, up until the latest Rolling Stones record, McCartney's on it. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
So is Ringo.
Yeah, so is Ringo. Yeah. All right, man.
Dude, are we done?
Yeah, I think.
Because that was a blast. What was that, 5 minutes?
Something like that.
Holy crap!
Yeah, something like that.
Wow, dude, time flies.
5, maybe 50, maybe I don't know.
Time literally flies in this room, and I have to just say, Jeff, off camera, Jeff, this space is freaking awesome, man.
Yeah.
This is a cool space. You guys can only see so much of it here on camera, but dude, this is so cool. And I wish you the most success in this, man.
Thanks.
I'm honored to be on the night shift,
Thank you.
I can't wait to see who else you have on in the
Thank
future.
you. So Jeff, with who's the genius behind all of this, and I told you this too, and he's the genius behind moving audio imagery. He started asking me, probably about a year ago, and I was like, I don't know if I have the time. I would like to. I thought, of you too, because I also did the same thing. I asked the important people in my life, my kids and my wife, what do you think? And then I met with Jeff and I saw this space and I went, okay, yeah, this is, hope to have Brandon on soon.
Oh, you should.
And to talk about the show, and also down the line, gonna hit you up again, because somewhere down the line I want to do some themed shows.
Okay.
And maybe have you back to where we just do a show where we just talk about what the 5 greatest songs the Beatles ever wrote are and why.
Okay.
And we'll
dig into that.
I'll have my 5 and you'll have your 5, and and we'll
great.
just.
That'd be great. I got to get you back on the river too. I mean,
Yeah.
we're getting into where vacation times are about to start. Put in, so get you filling in for Howard and Chad and Jilly and stuff whenever you're available.
I'm
You're a busy guy.
I'm always I'm a phone call away, as you know. Yeah.
You're
all right, buddy.
Great.
Thank you, Glenn. I appreciate it. Onward and upward from here. And we'll see you in the theater real soon.
Oh man, thanks, Steve.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you, brother. All right, thanks everybody for tuning in to another edition of The Night Shift. Cut.
Good. Nice.
That was so much fun.
Thank you so much, man. That's
That was
great.
outstanding.
Thank you.
Yeah, that was so cool.